You affirm wealth, love, or success, but nothing changes. Why? Because the real manifestation battle isn't external. It's happening in your mind, every single day. Neville Goddard said, "Speech, whether audible or silent, is creative." But most people don't realize their inner conversations shape their reality. If you constantly think, "I never have enough," you manifest more lack. By the end, you won't just know why your desires are delayed. You'll have the exact key to shift your inner talk tonight and watch your world begin to change. Now, let's uncover the biblical secret behind this power. What the Bible really says about inner conversation. For centuries, people have misunderstood one of the most profound statements in Scripture. In the beginning was the Word. Many assume this refers to spoken words, but Neville Goddard revealed a deeper truth. The Word is not external speech, but the silent, unseen conversations within you. Every moment, whether you are aware of it or not, you are engaged in an inner dialogue. These internal conversations are far more powerful than what you say aloud, because they reveal your true assumptions. And according to the Bible, assumptions hardened into belief become reality. Consider this. When Jesus said, "When you pray, believe that you have received it and it will be yours," Mark 11:24, he was not speaking of verbal prayer alone. He was describing the mental act of assuming something is true. Your prayers are not just the words you say when you close your eyes. They are the ongoing thoughts you accept as fact throughout the day. This means that your life is nothing more than the echo of your inner dialogue. If you constantly dwell on thoughts of lack, rejection, or fear, you are unconsciously asking for more of the same. If your inner speech is filled with complaints, doubt, and frustration, your reality will reflect those states. But here's the good news. The moment you consciously change your inner conversations, you change the course of your life. If your current reality is simply the result of past inner dialogue, then ask yourself, what have you been repeating? What assumptions have you accepted as truth? More importantly, are you willing to change them? Because the moment you do, your world will begin to shift. If manifestation is simply the outpicturing of your inner world, why does it sometimes feel slow or inconsistent? The answer is simple: contradictory inner conversations. Most people affirm what they want, yet their dominant inner dialogue contradicts it. They say, "I am wealthy," but when an unexpected bill arrives, their inner talk shifts to, "I never have enough." They affirm, "I am loved," but internally whisper, "No one ever stays." This contradiction neutralizes their desires, keeping them trapped in the same reality. Neville Goddard taught that assumption hardens into fact, but an assumption must be consistent to take form. You cannot assume one thing consciously and something entirely different unconsciously. The subconscious does not respond to fleeting affirmations. It responds to the dominant feeling behind your inner speech. Imagine planting a seed. If you constantly dig it up, checking to see if it has grown, you interfere with its natural process. This is exactly what people do with their desires. They affirm them briefly, but their inner dialogue keeps questioning, doubting, or resisting. They check the world for signs, reinforcing the belief that it hasn't happened yet. Time itself is not the cause of delay. The only thing delaying manifestation is the persistent inner talk that denies its reality. The moment you refuse to entertain contradictory conversations, reality has no choice but to conform. Right now, take a moment to observe your own thoughts. Are they aligned with your desires, or are they working against them? Because once your inner dialogue and your wish are in complete agreement, manifestation becomes inevitable. The power of inner conversation is not just an abstract concept. It is a force that transforms lives. One woman, estranged from her son for years, unknowingly used this power against herself until she consciously redirected it. For a long time, her mind was consumed with thoughts of pain and rejection. Every day she found herself thinking, "Why won't he call me? Doesn't he care? What did I do wrong?" These weren't just passing thoughts. They were the silent assumptions shaping her reality. Though she deeply wished to hear his voice, her dominant inner conversations reinforced the idea of distance. She unknowingly kept the separation alive by assuming that their relationship was broken. One day, after learning about Neville Goddard's teachings, she had a realization. Her mental conversations were creative acts. She wasn't just thinking about her son, she was actively manifesting their continued estrangement. If she wanted a new reality, she had to first create it within. That night, instead of allowing old painful thoughts to take over, she made a choice. As she lay in bed, she imagined hearing his voice. In her mind, she had a warm, joyful conversation with him. She heard him say, "Mom, I love you," "I've missed you." She felt the relief, the happiness, as if it were already happening. She replaced thoughts of doubt with certainty. "It's so wonderful to hear his voice. We have a loving relationship." She didn't do this once and then check her phone in frustration the next morning. She persisted. Night after night, she lived in the end mentally, assuming the reunion had already happened. She refused to entertain thoughts of loneliness or waiting. Within a week, the phone rang. It was her son. There was no explanation, no dramatic reconciliation, just a natural conversation, as if no time had passed. He had felt the shift, though he was unaware of what had caused it. Neville Goddard said, "When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are lifted to a higher level where it is already true." This woman's story is proof. She didn't beg, she didn't plead. She changed her inner conversation, and reality had no choice but to mirror it. Now consider your own relationships. Is there someone you long to reconnect with? Instead of focusing on absence, start hearing their voice in your mind. Assume the connection is already restored. Change your inner conversation, and you may be surprised by how quickly they return. If your inner conversations create reality, then they must also determine your financial world. Wealth is not about luck, talent, or even hard work. It is about the assumptions you carry regarding money. Many people affirm abundance, yet their inner dialogue contradicts it. They say, "Money flows to me effortlessly," but when faced with an unexpected bill, their mind reacts with, "I never have enough. How will I afford this?" This contradiction keeps them trapped in a cycle of financial struggle. Neville Goddard taught, "What you feel you are always dominates what you would like to be." If your deepest assumption is one of lack, no amount of effort can override it. Consider the story of a man struggling financially. He worked long hours, tried multiple businesses, yet nothing changed. When he examined his inner dialogue, he realized his dominant thoughts were filled with worry. "There's never enough. Money is hard to come by. I have to struggle to make ends meet." These thoughts had become so automatic that he didn't even notice them. Determined to change, he began a new practice. Every time he caught himself thinking from lack, he stopped and replaced it with a new assumption. "I always have more than enough. Money comes to me in expected and unexpected ways." At night, before sleep, he imagined checking his bank account and seeing an overflowing balance. He felt the relief and security of abundance. At first, nothing changed, but he remained faithful to this new assumption. Then, out of nowhere, opportunities started appearing. A past client reached out, an old investment paid off, and within months, his financial life transformed. He hadn't forced these changes through external effort. He had simply changed the way he talked to himself about money. The question is, what do you tell yourself about money? Do you see yourself as someone who always has enough, or do you mentally rehearse struggle? If you shifted your inner dialogue today, how long before your reality had no choice but to follow? The quality of your relationships is not determined by luck, external circumstances, or even what you say out loud. It is determined by your inner conversations, what you tell yourself daily about love, about others, and about your own worth. Many people long for love, but their dominant thoughts and assumptions push it away. They affirm, "I am in a happy relationship," yet their inner dialogue contradicts it. "Why am I always alone? Why does no one ever stay? I'm not enough." These silent thoughts carry more weight than any spoken words because they reflect the state of being they have accepted as true. Neville Goddard said, "You must persist in the assumption that you are already that which you want to be." If you continue to feel unloved within, no amount of effort will change your external reality, because your world is simply reflecting back what you assume to be true about yourself. Take the story of a woman who had been searching for a meaningful relationship for years. She would meet someone, feel hopeful, but somehow the connection would always fall apart. She found herself attracting unavailable partners, people who were not ready for love, or situations that reinforced her deepest fear, that she was unworthy of lasting commitment. At first, she thought the problem was external. Maybe she needed to change something about herself. Maybe she was just unlucky. But when she examined her inner talk, she realized a painful truth. Despite wanting love, her dominant inner dialogue was filled with doubt, fear, and past disappointments. Every day she mentally repeated, "Men always leave. I attract the wrong people. No one ever truly chooses me." Though she outwardly desired a healthy relationship, her assumptions kept her stuck in a state of rejection. She was unknowingly reaffirming the very reality she wanted to escape. Determined to break this cycle, she made a bold decision. She would change her inner conversation completely. Instead of replaying past heartbreaks, she started assuming a new story. Every morning and night she imagined hearing her ideal partner say, "I adore you. You are the love of my life. I am so grateful to have you." She didn't just say the words, she felt them. She allowed herself to experience the warmth of love, the security of commitment as if it were already real. At first it felt unnatural, but she persisted. When old doubts crept in, she replaced them immediately with her new assumption. She refused to entertain thoughts of rejection, and instead lived in the end, as if love was already hers. Within a few weeks, something shifted. She met someone who treated her exactly as she had imagined, with devotion, affection, and certainty. It wasn't luck, it wasn't coincidence. It was the outpicturing of the new state she had accepted within herself. Love is not something you chase, it is something you assume. When you truly believe you are already loved, your world has no choice but to reflect that assumption. Now ask yourself, what are your inner conversations about love? Do they align with the relationship you desire, or do they keep you trapped in past pain? If you truly assumed love was already yours, how quickly would your world reflect it? Make inner conversation effortless. Many people struggle to control their inner dialogue. They try to force positive thinking, repeat affirmations mechanically, or fight against negative thoughts, hoping that sheer repetition will change their reality. But Neville Goddard taught that inner conversation should not be a battle. It should be a natural reflection of the state you have assumed. Your inner talk is not something you fix temporarily. It is something that flows effortlessly when you truly shift into a new state of being. If you constantly have to correct your thoughts, it is a sign that you have not yet fully accepted your desired reality as true. When you completely assume a state, whether it is the state of wealth, love, or success, your inner conversations naturally align with it, without effort or resistance. Neville said, "You do not have to persist in trying to hold on to a state. The state will hold you." This means that instead of forcing new thoughts, you should focus on fully embodying the feeling of already being the person you wish to become. When the assumption is firm, the right thoughts will follow automatically. Consider an artist who struggled with doubt. She dreamed of recognition, but found herself constantly thinking, "No one values my work. Making a living as an artist is impossible." Despite affirming success, her dominant inner talk was filled with fear and self-doubt. Every time she completed a painting, she questioned its worth. Every time she saw other successful artists, she compared herself negatively, reinforcing the belief that success was out of reach. Then she realized something crucial. She was still identifying as someone who struggled. She hadn't assumed the state of a successful artist. She was merely trying to believe in it while still operating from a place of doubt. She was speaking as someone wishing to be successful, not as someone who already was. So, she made a shift. Instead of forcing affirmations, she asked herself, if I were already successful, how would I think? How would I speak to myself? How would I carry myself in daily life? She decided to mentally step into the identity of the artist she wanted to be. As soon as she did, her inner conversations changed without effort. She no longer had to force confidence. She naturally began thinking, my work is valuable. People appreciate my creativity. I create art that speaks to the world. She no longer questioned whether success was possible. She knew it was inevitable. Within months, everything around her began to shift. Opportunities appeared. Her work started gaining recognition. Collectors who had previously overlooked her paintings suddenly took notice. The outer world conformed to her new assumption, but the transformation had first taken place within her. Instead of struggling to correct every stray thought, shift your state of being. The right inner dialogue will follow. If you were already wealthy, already loved, already successful, what kind of inner conversation would flow effortlessly? Stop trying to change thoughts directly, and instead step fully into the reality of your wish fulfilled. When you do, the battle with your mind will disappear, because you will no longer be trying to believe. You will simply be. The moments before sleep are the most powerful for shaping your reality. Neville Goddard taught that your final thoughts at night sink deeply into the subconscious, shaping the experiences of your waking life. What you take into sleep, you bring into existence. Most people drift off replaying the frustrations of the day. They mentally relive arguments, financial worries, or fears about the future. Without realizing it, they are planting the seeds of struggle, reinforcing the very reality they wish to escape. Then they wake up and experience the same difficulties, unaware that the cause lies in the thoughts they carried into sleep. Neville said, "Sleep is the door into heaven. What you take with you into sleep defines your world." This means that your final inner conversation before sleep is like a direct command to the subconscious mind. The subconscious does not argue, analyze, or reject. It simply accepts and expresses whatever is impressed upon it. Consider a man struggling financially. Every night as he lay in bed, his mind would flood with worries. How will I pay my bills? Why can't I make enough? What if things get worse? He didn't realize that by surrendering to these thoughts before sleep, he was programming his subconscious to create more of the same. Then, after discovering Neville's teachings, he decided to experiment. Instead of worrying, he used the last moments before sleep to assume a new state. As he lay in bed, he imagined checking his bank account and seeing an abundant balance. He heard his friends congratulating him on his success. He felt the security and freedom of financial ease. He immersed himself in the feeling of already having what he desired. At first it felt unnatural. His logical mind resisted, but he persisted. He didn't force the thoughts. He simply allowed himself to drift into sleep in the assumption that wealth was already his. Within weeks, unexpected opportunities appeared. Clients reached out, investments paid off, and his financial situation shifted effortlessly. This principle applies to everything: health, relationships, career, personal fulfillment. If you fall asleep feeling lonely, abandoned, or unworthy, you reinforce that state. But if you assume the feeling of being deeply loved, respected, and fulfilled, your subconscious accepts it as truth and reshapes your world accordingly. Now ask yourself, what do you take into sleep each night? Are you planting seeds of fear and struggle? Or are you impressing the subconscious with the life you truly desire? Tonight, as you lie in bed, let go of doubt. Instead of replaying old worries, assume the reality you wish to live. Feel it as true and allow yourself to sink into sleep in that state. If you persist, your world will shift to match. Eliminate delays in manifestation. Why do some desires seem to take forever to manifest while others unfold effortlessly? The answer lies in your inner conversations about time and becoming. Most people unknowingly delay their manifestations by thinking in terms of the future. They say, "One day, I will be wealthy. Soon I will find love. Eventually, I will be successful." But Neville Goddard taught that as long as you place your desire in the future, it remains there, always out of reach. He said, "To desire a state is to have it, but to continue desiring it is to push it away." The moment you claim something as yours in consciousness, it begins to move into form. But if you keep thinking of it as something you will attain someday, you are reinforcing the assumption that you do not have it now. Consider a man who wanted a promotion at work. Every day he thought, "I hope they notice my efforts. Maybe in a few months I'll get recognized." His inner talk was filled with anticipation, but not assumption. He saw success as something he was moving toward rather than something he already was. One day, he realized his mistake. Instead of thinking of promotion as something coming in the future, he began to assume it was already his. He walked into the office each day with the quiet confidence of someone who had already been given the role. His inner dialogue changed from "I hope" to "I am." Within weeks, an unexpected opportunity arose and he was promoted. This is the key to eliminating delays in manifestation. Stop thinking of yourself as someone who is becoming and start assuming you already are. Instead of saying, "I will be successful," declare, "I am successful now." Feel it, embody it, and watch how quickly reality aligns. Now, examine your own desires. Are you assuming them as true, or are you mentally keeping them in the future? The moment you shift from waiting to being, manifestation speeds up, because reality has no choice but to reflect your assumption. Change how others treat you. Your relationships are not dictated by chance, nor are they fixed. The way others treat you is a reflection of your inner assumptions about them and yourself. If you believe someone is difficult, unkind, or dismissive, your inner conversations will reinforce that assumption, and they will continue to behave accordingly. But the moment you change your perception, their actions will shift to match your new assumption. Neville Goddard taught, "People are only mirrors reflecting the assumptions you hold about them." This means that the thoughts you entertain about others are shaping your interactions with them, whether you realize it or not. If you persist in thinking of someone as rude or distant, your subconscious will project that assumption onto them, and they will continue to play that role in your life. Consider a woman who struggled with her mother-in-law's constant criticism. Every time they interacted, she expected conflict, and her inner dialogue was filled with frustration. "She never respects me. She always finds something wrong with what I do. These assumptions created tension, and every meeting ended in conflict, just as she had mentally rehearsed. After learning about the power of inner conversation, she decided to change the story. Instead of expecting hostility, she assumed kindness. Before seeing her mother-in-law, she would imagine hearing her say, "I appreciate you. You are a wonderful part of our family." She replaced inner complaints with gratitude, mentally repeating, "She adores me. Our relationship is filled with warmth and understanding." Within weeks, the dynamic changed. Her mother-in-law, who had always been critical, suddenly became more pleasant and even affectionate. It wasn't that the older woman had magically changed. Her assumption had shifted, and reality had no choice but to conform. Now think about the people in your life. How do you mentally talk about them? Are your assumptions keeping them locked in a negative role? If so, rewrite the story. Begin seeing them as kind, supportive, and loving. Change your inner conversation, and you will witness how effortlessly they transform before your eyes. Protect your inner world from negative influence. Your inner conversations shape your reality. But what happens when external influences try to disrupt your assumptions? Many people unknowingly allow the fears, doubts, and limitations of others to seep into their minds, weakening their faith in their desires. If you are not vigilant, these external voices can override your own, reinforcing a state you do not wish to experience. Neville Goddard taught, "Do not accept as true what the outer world dictates if it contradicts your ideal. The world is only reflecting your imagination." This means that even when others doubt you, even when circumstances seem to oppose your vision, the only thing that matters is your internal acceptance of your wish fulfilled. Consider an aspiring writer who dreamed of publishing a book. She was excited about her vision, but when she shared it with others, she was met with skepticism. The publishing industry is too competitive. It's nearly impossible to succeed. At first, she resisted their words, but over time, their doubts became her doubts. Her inner conversations shifted from, "My book is a success," to, "What if they're right? What if I never make it?" And so, she unconsciously delayed her progress, sabotaging her own success. Then, she realized something powerful. The only belief that mattered was her own. She stopped discussing her dreams with those who couldn't see her vision. She became disciplined in her inner talk, affirming daily, "My book is loved by thousands. It inspires people. Success is inevitable." She refused to let external voices dictate her reality. Within months, she finished her manuscript, found the right connections, and her book was published, proving that her assumption was the only thing shaping her world. Now, reflect on your own life. Have you allowed others to influence your belief in your desires? If so, it is time to reclaim control. Guard your inner conversations as if they were sacred, because they are. What you assume within will always be greater than what the outer world suggests. The key is to remain faithful to your vision, no matter what others say. If you do, reality will adjust to reflect your unwavering assumption. Your inner conversations do not just shape your personal relationships or finances. They influence how the world perceives and responds to you. The story of a struggling artist illustrates how changing inner dialogue can shift reality in remarkable ways. For years, this artist poured her heart into her work, yet success always seemed just out of reach. Galleries overlooked her paintings, clients hesitated, and she constantly felt unseen. Though she longed for recognition, her inner conversations told a different story. She often thought, "No one values my work. Making a living as an artist is impossible. Others succeed, but not me." What she didn't realize was that her world was only reflecting back what she consistently assumed to be true. She was unknowingly reinforcing rejection, so reality had no choice but to mirror that belief. Then, she learned about the power of inner speech. Instead of mentally repeating her failures, she chose to shift her assumption. She began speaking to herself as if success were already hers. Every day she imagined hearing an art collector say, "Your work is extraordinary. I must have it." She assumed the feeling of being a sought-after artist, telling herself, "My art is recognized. People are eager to buy my work." At first nothing changed, but she remained faithful to her new mental script, persisting in the assumption even when external circumstances suggested otherwise. Then a shift occurred. Out of nowhere, a well-known collector discovered her work. One sale led to another, and soon her paintings were in high demand. It wasn't luck. It was a direct reflection of the new state she had assumed. Neville Goddard said, Man moves in a world that is nothing more or less than his consciousness objectified. The artist had not changed her talent, location, or effort. She had only changed her inner conversations about herself. And once she did, reality conformed. Now consider your own dreams. Do you assume success, or are you still reinforcing doubt? Your world will never contradict your assumptions. It can only reflect them. Change your inner speech, and success will follow. Your assumptions about love determine your relationships. Many affirm love but internally repeat, "I always get hurt. Love never lasts." These inner conversations shape reality, keeping love at a distance. Neville Goddard said, "Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live." If you assume yourself to be unloved, no external effort will change that. But the moment you embody the feeling of being cherished, reality conforms. A woman who struggled with relationships realized her inner talk was full of fear. She began assuming, "I am loved. I am adored." Every night she imagined hearing her partner say, "I love you." Soon she met someone who reflected her new belief. What do you assume about love? Shift your inner conversations, and your relationships will transform effortlessly. Live from the end. The greatest secret to manifesting faster is living from the end. Instead of hoping, wishing, or waiting, assume the feeling of already having your desire. Neville Goddard taught, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption." When you do this, reality must shift to reflect it. Most people focus on how to get their desires, but this keeps them in a state of lack. If you constantly think, "How will this happen?" you reinforce that it has not yet happened. The key is to stop planning the path and instead step into the version of yourself who already has it. A man who longed for success stopped asking, "When will my breakthrough come?" and started assuming, "I am already successful." He felt it as real, and soon opportunities arrived effortlessly. Are you still waiting? Or have you claimed your desire as already yours? Assume it now, and watch how quickly your world transforms. Your world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Every experience, whether wanted or unwanted, is the direct result of your inner conversations and assumptions. Neville Goddard taught, "Man moves in a world that is nothing more or less than his consciousness objectified." This means that everything you see, every event you encounter, is a reflection of the state you have accepted as true. You now understand why manifestations are delayed, how inner speech directs your life, and how shifting your assumptions changes everything. The key is persistence. Do not wait for external proof. Assume your desire is true now, and reality will follow. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, feel the joy of your wish fulfilled. Let your inner talk reflect only what you desire. If you remain faithful to your new assumption, the world has no choice but to conform. You are the creator. What will you choose to manifest next?